The first snowfall of December drifted across the town of Pinebridge as Olivia Carter stepped off the bus, tugging her coat tighter against the cold. She had been away for almost 2 years, long enough for her family to assume she had moved on from everything, including the heartbreak that had chased her out. Olivia wasn't planning to return this Christmas, but then her mother announced a huge family reunion. Now she needed a girlfriend to bring home, or else face endless conversations about her ex. And Olivia refused to let her family think she was still hung up on Harper. That part of her life was supposed to be over. Olivia dragged her suitcase across the icy sidewalk, mentally rehearsing the plan she had crafted over the past week. She had hired a fake girlfriend, Ruby Hayes, a charming barista-turned-actress trying to make rent. Ruby would arrive tomorrow, smiling, believable, and safely unrelated to Olivia's messy past. Everything was supposed to be simple: show up, look in love, survive the holiday. Olivia told herself this was foolproof. Ruby was a professional after all. No surprises, no emotions, no complications. Exactly what Olivia needed. The Carter house sat at the end of a quiet street, glowing with Christmas lights that hadn't changed since Olivia was a kid. She paused at the gate, taking a slow breath, steadying the nerves twisting in her stomach. She could already hear her mother laughing inside, probably decorating cookies with her sister. For a brief moment, Olivia wondered if she should turn back and check into a hotel. But running had never solved anything, not even when she left after breaking up with Harper. With a resigned sigh, she stepped through the front door. Warm air and the smell of cinnamon rushed to greet her as her mother, Diane, let out a joyful scream and wrapped her in a tight hug. Olivia laughed, letting herself relax into the familiar chaos of home. Her sister, Lily, peeked from the kitchen, waving a rolling pin like a welcome flag. Everything looked small, safe, and unchanged, yet Olivia felt painfully aware of the secret she was keeping. She would soon introduce a girlfriend who wasn't real. The lie settled like snow on her shoulders, heavy and cold. Her mother wasted no time asking about Olivia's love life, as expected. Olivia gave vague, harmless answers, promising that her girlfriend would join them tomorrow evening. Diane clasped her hands together with excited delight, already planning matching pajamas and embarrassing family photos. Olivia smiled politely, praying Ruby would play her role convincingly. If her mother sensed even the slightest awkwardness, the charade would collapse. And Olivia absolutely couldn't handle being pitted for still being single, or worse, for still missing Harper. Later that night, Olivia went to her childhood bedroom, dropping her bag on the old quilted bedspread. Fairy lights twinkled softly along the walls, casting a warm glow over the memories trapped in the room. There were photos she thought she had removed, ones of her and Harper during happier years. Olivia turned the frames face down, refusing to let nostalgia weaken her resolve. She wasn't that girl anymore. She had boundaries, distance, and a fake girlfriend on the way. Nothing could catch her off guard this time. But as Olivia went downstairs to grab a glass of water, the sound of a familiar voice froze her in place. She recognized it instantly, low, warm, slightly nervous. Harper Reyes stood in the doorway, snowflakes tangled in her dark curls, eyes widening at the sight of Olivia. Diane happily announced that Harper had arrived early to help prepare for the reunion, unaware of the emotional earthquake she had triggered. Olivia's heart plummeted. Her fake girlfriend wasn't even here yet, and her very real past had shown up first. Olivia's fingers tightened around the glass in her hand as Harper stepped fully inside, brushing snow from her coat. Harper looked exactly the same and yet impossibly different, older, steadier, carrying a quiet sadness beneath her smile. Diane and Lily chatted around them, oblivious to the tension slicing through the air. Olivia forced a polite greeting, hiding the storm inside her chest. She had imagined seeing Harper again dozens of times, but never like this. Not in her childhood home. Not right before introducing a fake girlfriend. Harper's eyes followed Olivia with a softness that made her skin prickle. They hadn't spoken since the breakup, a painful ending sparked by distance, misunderstandings, and Olivia's sudden decision to leave town. Harper had never chased her, and Olivia had convinced herself that meant Harper didn't care. Now, Standing inches away in a warm living room scented with pine and cookies, it didn't feel so simple anymore. Olivia tried to walk past Harper, but Harper gently stepped aside for her, their shoulders brushing lightly. "Didn't expect to see you here," Olivia said, keeping her voice steady as she moved toward the kitchen. Harper followed at a respectful distance, hands buried awkwardly in her pockets. Diane explained that Harper had been helping with decorations all week because apparently Harper still spent time with the Carter family. Olivia swallowed hard, trying to process the idea that her ex had remained woven into her family's life even after she left. It was comforting and infuriating all at once. Lily nudged Olivia as she passed, quietly mouthing, "Talk to her." Olivia pretended not to understand. She wasn't ready, not with Ruby arriving tomorrow. Not with old feelings clawing their way back to the surface. Instead, she focused on cutting fruit for the dessert tray, even though her hands were shaking. Harper stood by the counter, hesitating before offering to help. Olivia refused, but Harper stayed anyway, leaning against the fridge, watching her with that same unreadable expression. Finally, Harper broke the silence, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know you were coming home this year." Olivia didn't answer immediately, slicing apples with mechanical precision. Harper continued softly, "I'm glad you did." The words hung between them, tender and dangerous. Olivia felt her throat tighten. She reminded herself this didn't matter. Because Ruby would be here soon, because their breakup had been final, because Olivia had already written an ending for the story they once tried to build together. When Olivia still said nothing, Harper pushed away from the fridge, nodding as if accepting an invisible boundary. She offered a faint smile before walking back toward the living room. Olivia exhaled shakily, gripping the counter for balance. No part of her plan accounted for the emotional landmine Harper had become simply by existing in the same room. She didn't want Harper to think there was still space in her heart, even if the sudden ache suggested otherwise. She needed to stay focused. That night, long after her family had gone to bed, Olivia sat awake in the dim living room, trying to calm her racing thoughts. Harper's unexpected presence had shaken her far more than she wanted to admit. Her phone buzzed with a message from Ruby, confirming her arrival time, asking if there was anything Olivia needed before tomorrow. Olivia stared at the screen, imagining Ruby's bright smile, her practiced charm. Tomorrow, the performance would begin. She prayed it would be enough to keep the past at arm's length. Morning sunlight filtered through the curtains as Olivia woke to the muffled sound of laughter downstairs. She checked the time. Ruby's bus would arrive in 2 hours. A knot of nerves tightened in her stomach. She dressed quickly, trying to steady her breathing, reminding herself she had everything under control. But stepping into the hallway, she heard Harper's voice again, warm and familiar. It pulled her back to memories she wasn't ready to confront. Olivia squared her shoulders and descended the stairs. Harper was helping Diane hang garlands along the staircase, holding the step stool steady as Diane reached up. The scene was so domestic it made Olivia's chest twist. Harper looked over her shoulder, offering Olivia a tentative smile that Olivia pretended not to see. She focused instead on the clock above the fireplace, silently counting down to Ruby's arrival. The sooner the illusion was in place, the safer her heart would feel. At least, that was what she kept telling herself. Diane bustled over, pressing a mug of peppermint tea into Olivia's hands and chatting excitedly about having both girls home for the holidays. Olivia stiffened every time her mother mentioned Harper with affectionate familiarity. She didn't correct her. She didn't have the energy. Instead, she sat near the window and scrolled through Ruby's last messages. Ruby had the kind of charisma that lit up every conversation, even through text. Olivia just hoped she would look believably smitten when they met for the first time in front of her entire family. Time passed slowly, each minute dragging like wet snow. Harper moved around the house effortlessly, fixing lights, carrying boxes, laughing along with Lily. Seeing her so woven into the Carter home made Olivia feel like a shadow in her own life. She tried helping with tasks, but the air was thick with unspoken tension. Every time she and Harper crossed paths, Olivia felt her heartbeat stutter. Finally, Diane announced she needed someone to pick up bread from the bakery. Olivia volunteered immediately, anything to escape for a moment. At the bakery, Olivia tried to breathe. The air was warm, filled with sugar and cinnamon, but even here she couldn't outrun her thoughts. She replayed the breakup, the arguments, the distance, the painful silence that had swallowed everything. It hadn't been simple. It hadn't been clean. She told herself Harper showing up didn't change anything. But the nagging truth tugged at her. Something about Harper's eyes last night had looked unresolved, as if she hadn't moved on either. Her phone buzzed. "Ruby, just arrived at the station. Should I walk or meet you somewhere cute and romantic?" Olivia felt heat rush to her cheeks, imagining how Ruby would look pretending to adore her. She typed back quickly, telling Ruby she'd meet her at the station. Heading out, she rehearsed the story they'd agreed on. The meet-cute in a coffee shop, the steady dating, the going strong relationship. Lies, but easy ones. Ones that wouldn't hurt anyone. At least, that's what Olivia hoped. When she reached the station, Ruby was already standing outside, suitcase at her feet, waving enthusiastically. She wore a burgundy coat, her smile bright enough to melt snow. Olivia felt a flicker of relief. Ruby radiated confidence, warmth, and effortless charm. Ready to be in love. Ruby teased softly as Olivia approached. Olivia forced a smile, grateful for the distraction. Together, they walked toward the Carter house, unaware that Harper was about to witness their grand entrance. As Olivia and Ruby turned onto the snowy street leading to the Carter house, Ruby looped her arm through Olivia's with practiced ease. The gesture startled her, but it also grounded her, reminding her why Ruby was here. "Don't worry," Ruby whispered, reading the worry on Olivia's face. "I'm very good at this." Olivia nodded, unsure if she was reassuring herself or Ruby. When the house came into view, bright, warm, and alive with decorations, Olivia felt the weight of the moment settle heavily on her shoulders. This was where the lie began. Diane opened the door before they even reached the porch, thrilled to meet Olivia's girlfriend. Ruby turned on her full charm immediately, greeting Diane with a warm handshake and a compliment about the decorations. Diane beamed, ushering them inside with excitement. Olivia watched Ruby slip effortlessly into the role, smiling, laughing, leaning in close when she spoke. Perfectly convincing. It was almost too convincing. Olivia's chest tightened as she wondered how this would look to Harper. Harper was in the living room, arranging ornaments, when she heard the voices. She turned, her expression shifting the second her eyes landed on Ruby holding Olivia's hand. The change was subtle, just a flicker, a tightening of her jaw, but Olivia felt it like a tremor. Diane proudly introduced Ruby as Olivia's girlfriend, and Ruby squeezed Olivia's hand gently, staying in character. Harper managed a polite smile, her voice steady as she welcomed Ruby to the house. But her eyes stayed on Olivia, searching. Ruby picked up on the tension instantly. She didn't draw attention to it, but her posture shifted ever so slightly, protective, curious. She continued playing the cheerful partner, asking Harper friendly questions and complimenting the tree. Harper responded graciously, but Olivia could tell every word was measured. Lily, sensing something brewing, quickly insisted on giving Ruby a tour of the house. Ruby accepted with enthusiasm, shooting Olivia a subtle look that promised a later conversation. Olivia exhaled shakily as Ruby and Lily disappeared upstairs. When the room finally emptied, Harper stepped closer, keeping her voice low. "You didn't mention you were bringing someone." Olivia crossed her arms defensively, her pulse hammering. "We're not obligated to update each other," she replied, sharper than intended. Harper nodded, eyes softening with something that looked like hurt, though she hid it quickly. "Right," she murmured. "Of course not." The silence between them tightened, filled with words neither dared to speak. Olivia hated how familiar it felt, this mix of longing and distance. Harper tried again, quieter this time. "I'm glad you're happy, Olivia." Truly. The sincerity in her voice made Olivia's throat close. She wanted to say something comforting, something neutral, but the words refused to form. Harper's gaze lingered on her for a moment before she stepped back, giving Olivia space. Olivia felt her chest ache as she watched her ex walk away. It shouldn't matter anymore. She had Ruby. She had a plan. She had moved on, hadn't she? A few minutes later, Ruby returned from the tour, cheerful as ever, but with knowing eyes. She curled her arm around Olivia's waist, a gentle but deliberate gesture. "Your family is lovely," Ruby whispered, then added softly, "but you look like you've seen a ghost." Olivia didn't answer. She wasn't ready to unpack the storm inside her. Ruby didn't push. Instead, she rested her head briefly on Olivia's shoulder, playing her role perfectly. And across the room, Harper watched the moment unfold, her expression unreadable. The afternoon settled into a blur of decorating, baking, and last-minute holiday chaos. Ruby blended into the Carter household with ease, helping Diane frost cookies and laughing at Lily's terrible Christmas jokes. Olivia watched from a quiet corner, grateful, yet strangely uneasy. Ruby was performing beautifully, maybe too beautifully. Every affectionate touch, every shared laugh, every subtly staged moment of closeness reminded Olivia that this relationship was an illusion. Meanwhile, Harper lingered in the background, calm but distant, always close enough to notice. At one point, Ruby excused herself to take a phone call, leaving Olivia momentarily alone at the dining table. Harper approached cautiously, holding 2 mugs of hot chocolate. "Truce?" Harper asked, offering one of them. Olivia hesitated before accepting, their fingers brushing accidentally. A small spark shot through her, unwelcome yet undeniable. They sat in silence for a moment, the tension softer but still present. Harper finally asked, "Is she good to you?" Olivia swallowed hard, unsure how to answer a question that was built entirely on a lie. Before Olivia could form a response, Ruby returned, sliding smoothly into the seat beside her. She stole a playful kiss on Olivia's cheek, light, convincing, perfectly timed. Harper's jaw tightened, though she hid it behind a polite smile. Ruby noticed. Olivia noticed. The entire moment felt like a carefully balanced scale, tipping just slightly off-center. Ruby rested her hand on Olivia's knee, grounding the performance again. Olivia forced a smile, grateful and guilty all at once. Harper excused herself quietly, claiming she needed fresh air. Ruby waited a few seconds before turning to Olivia, her voice low enough not to carry. "Okay," she whispered. "I'm not blind. Your ex is very, very not over you." Olivia stiffened, shaking her head. "You're misreading it," she replied, though the words felt flimsy even to her. Ruby raised an eyebrow, unconvinced. "Sweetheart," she said gently, "I pretend for a living. I know the difference between polite interest and heartbreak." Olivia exhaled slowly, knowing Ruby was right. But knowing didn't make anything easier. That evening, the family gathered to decorate the big Christmas tree in the living room. Ruby stayed close to Olivia, keeping the illusion alive without overstepping. She made conversation, helped Lily untangle lights, and even taught Diane a small choreography to a holiday song. Harper participated quietly, hanging ornaments near the top branches. Every so often, their eyes met across the room. Each glance felt like a silent question, each moment a reminder of everything unresolved. Olivia tried to focus on the present, but the past pulsed beneath every breath. When the tree was finally lit, everyone stepped back to admire the glow. Diane insisted on photos, couples first. Ruby pulled Olivia close for the picture, her arm wrapped warmly around her waist. The camera flashed. Harper stood behind them in the group shot, her expression perfectly neutral. Olivia tried to ignore the tight flutter in her chest. After the photos, Ruby whispered, "You're trembling." Olivia forced a laugh, brushing it off. She couldn't admit how emotionally tangled this reunion had become, not even to herself. Later, when the house had quieted and everyone drifted off to their rooms, Olivia found herself alone in the hallway. Harper stepped out of the guest room at the same moment, and they froze, caught in another unexpected collision. "Long day," Harper murmured. Olivia nodded. For a heartbeat, neither moved. The soft glow of the Christmas lights cast their shadows against the walls, pulling them back into a familiar closeness. Harper opened her mouth to speak, but Ruby's voice called from the bedroom, breaking the moment instantly. Ruby appeared in the doorway wearing borrowed plaid pajamas from Diane, her hair slightly tousled, looking perfectly at home. "Liv," she called softly, still in character. Olivia stepped back from Harper instinctively, creating distance she didn't know she needed until that moment. Harper noticed, her expression flickering with something unreadable before she masked it. Ruby glanced between them, catching the tension instantly. Without missing a beat, she slipped her hand into Olivia's, grounding the scene with a gentle squeeze. "I was just about to head to bed," Harper said quietly, nodding to both of them. Olivia forced a polite smile, while Ruby offered a warm goodnight. Harper hesitated for half a second, just long enough for Olivia to see the sadness ripple through her eyes, before disappearing into the guest room. The hallway fell silent again. Olivia exhaled slowly, feeling her heartbeat settle. Ruby guided her back into the bedroom, brushing off any heaviness with her usual easy charm. Still, Olivia couldn't shake the weight of the moment. Inside the room, Ruby closed the door gently and sat beside Olivia on the bed. "So," she began lightly, "we're definitely dealing with unresolved history." Olivia rubbed her hands over her face. "It's complicated." Ruby laughed softly. "Complicated? Honey, the air between you two could power an entire soap opera." Olivia groaned, burying her face in a pillow. Ruby's tone softened as she added, "I'm not judging. I just want to make sure I'm doing this right for you." Olivia appreciated the sincerity more than she expected. They reviewed their story one more time, with Ruby reminding Olivia of the small details they'd established: the fictional anniversary date, their supposed favorite restaurant, their inside jokes. Olivia listened carefully, grateful for Ruby's professionalism. But somewhere beneath the rehearsed lines, her anxiety stirred again. This lie was becoming bigger than she anticipated, intertwining itself with memories she had never dealt with. Ruby watched her closely. "If you want to change the plan at any point," she said gently, "just tell me." Olivia shook her head.
"No."
"I need this," she said firmly, though she wasn't sure who she was trying to convince. Ruby nodded, accepting the answer without argument. She stretched out on the bed with a dramatic sigh, making Olivia laugh despite herself. "You know," Ruby said, staring at the ceiling, "your family is lovely, but very emotionally observant. Tomorrow, they'll start asking deeper questions." Olivia winced at the truth. Harper's presence only made it more complicated. Ruby added, "We'll be ready." The house was silent except for the faint hum of the heater as Olivia changed into her pajamas. Ruby turned off the bedside lamp, leaving only the soft glow of Christmas lights strung across the window. "Good night, partner," Ruby teased, rolling onto her side. Olivia smiled faintly. Sharing a room with someone she barely knew felt strange, but also oddly comforting. Ruby radiated warmth, steady, reassuring, uncomplicated. Olivia slipped under the covers, grateful for at least one thing that felt manageable. Just as she began drifting to sleep, Olivia heard footsteps faintly crossing the hallway, slow, hesitant, familiar. She held her breath, listening until the sound faded. Harper must have been heading to the kitchen, or maybe she had paused outside the door. Olivia wasn't sure which possibility made her heart ache more. She closed her eyes tightly, forcing herself to sleep. Tomorrow would bring more questions, more pretending, more unresolved tension. And she wasn't ready, yet she had no choice but to face it all. Morning arrived with the scent of pancakes drifting through the house. Olivia woke to Ruby stretching beside her, sunlight catching in her hair. For a moment, it almost felt natural, until reality returned in a rush. Downstairs, Diane was humming Christmas songs, and Harper's voice carried faintly from the kitchen. Olivia's stomach tightened. Ruby sat up and gave her a steady look. "We've got a full day ahead of us," she said calmly. "Whatever happens, I'm on your team." Olivia nodded, grateful for the reassurance. They headed downstairs together, hand in hand for authenticity. Diane lit up at the sight of them, immediately ushering them to the breakfast table. Harper sat on the opposite side, stirring her coffee slowly. She looked up, offering a polite smile, but the tension beneath it was unmistakable. Ruby slipped seamlessly into her role, praising the pancakes, teasing Olivia about being a messy eater, and making Lily laugh. Olivia played along, though her eyes kept drifting to Harper, who seemed unusually quiet. At one point, Ruby leaned over to wipe a bit of syrup from Olivia's lip, a small, affectionate gesture meant to sell the relationship. Olivia froze for a fraction of a second, caught off guard. Harper looked away immediately, jaw tightening. The moment passed quickly, but its weight lingered. Lily raised an eyebrow at Olivia from across the table, silently asking if everything was fine. Olivia nodded, though she wasn't convinced herself. Ruby continued chatting, filling any silence before it could turn awkward. After breakfast, Diane sent Harper and Olivia to the attic to retrieve extra ornaments. Olivia tried to decline, but Diane was insistent, completely unaware of what she was forcing. Ruby squeezed Olivia's hand subtly, offering a silent good luck. Harper waited by the stairs, holding the attic pull cord. When Olivia joined her, they climbed into the dusty space, both overly cautious about maintaining distance. The attic was familiar, filled with old decorations and memories boxed away like forgotten chapters of their lives. They worked quietly, stacking bins near the opening. Harper found the box Diane wanted and passed it to Olivia without meeting her eyes. The silence grew heavy enough to crack. Finally, Harper said softly, "I didn't know you were seeing someone." Olivia swallowed. "It's recent." Harper nodded, her expression unreadable. "She seems good for you." Olivia hated how the words made her chest ache, because Ruby wasn't hers, because Harper sounded like she was trying to convince herself of something she didn't believe. Olivia tried to redirect the conversation, focusing on safe topics, but Harper wasn't easily distracted. "Did you leave because of me?" she asked suddenly, voice soft but steady. Olivia froze, breath catching in her throat. She didn't answer immediately. The truth was complicated, tangled in fear and timing and things she had never fully understood. Harper waited patiently, eyes fixed on her with a tenderness Olivia wished she could ignore. But before Olivia could speak, Diane called up the stairs, breaking the fragile moment. They carried the ornament boxes downstairs in silence, both shaken by the near conversation. Ruby noticed instantly, her eyes flicking between them with quiet concern. She placed a gentle hand on Olivia's back, grounding her again. Olivia forced a smile, slipping easily into the practiced affection they had agreed on. But something inside her had shifted. Harper's question lingered in her mind like an unfinished sentence. Ruby noticed the tension but didn't push. She simply stayed close, ready for whatever came next. The next morning began with a thick snowfall that blanketed Pinebridge in white silence. Olivia stood by the kitchen window, watching flakes drift lazily to the ground. Ruby joined her, still half asleep, sipping hot cocoa Diane had insisted she try. "You okay?" Ruby asked softly, nudging her shoulder. Olivia nodded, though her expression betrayed her exhaustion. Harper's late-night confession echoed in her mind, replaying with painful clarity. Olivia didn't know whether to confront the truth or keep running from it. Harper entered the kitchen moments later, cheeks flushed from shoveling snow outside. The tension curled instantly between her and Olivia, though both tried to disguise it. Ruby sensed the shift immediately and stepped into her role again, looping an arm gently around Olivia's waist. Harper paused only a second before offering a polite smile. "Breakfast is ready," Harper said, her tone controlled. Olivia thanked her, unable to ignore the flicker of hurt she glimpsed behind Harper's eyes. At the breakfast table, the conversation was light: holiday plans, family traditions, last-minute gift wrapping. Ruby contributed cheerfully, charming everyone effortlessly. Harper remained quieter than usual, speaking only when spoken to. Diane, however, noticed more than Olivia wished she would. She watched the girls carefully, especially the moments when Harper's gaze drifted toward Olivia. Finally, Diane excused herself to the living room, claiming she needed to check on the fireplace. Olivia knew that look. Her mother was suspicious. After breakfast, Lily dragged Ruby into a competitive snowman building contest outside, leaving Olivia and Harper alone in the kitchen. The silence felt heavy, like a conversation waiting to happen. Harper leaned against the counter, arms folded. "About last night," she began gently. Olivia's breath caught. Harper hesitated before continuing. "I didn't mean to make things harder for you." Olivia looked down at her hands, unsure how to respond. Everything inside her felt tangled: fear, longing, guilt, and confusion. "I just needed you to know I never stopped caring," Harper admitted softly, her voice cracking with vulnerability she rarely showed. Olivia's chest tightened. Harper stepped closer, but kept her distance respectful. "You don't have to feel the same. I just couldn't keep pretending it didn't matter." Olivia felt the room tilt, overwhelmed by the honesty she had been avoiding for years. Harper's sincerity disarmed her completely, cutting through the careful walls she had built around her heart. Before Olivia could speak, Ruby appeared in the doorway, dusted with snow and grinning. But her smile faltered when she saw the scene, the closeness, the tension, the unspoken truths hovering between them. "A snowman contest needs a referee," Ruby joked lightly, though her eyes flickered with concern. Harper stepped back immediately, retreating to a safe emotional distance. Olivia forced a smile for Ruby, but her heartbeat thundered in her ears. She felt the lie tightening around her like a rope. Ruby waited until Harper left the room before stepping closer. "Liv, this isn't just history," she whispered gently. "This is someone who still loves you." Olivia swallowed hard, unable to deny it anymore. Ruby touched her arm in quiet support. "Whatever you choose, just make sure it's the truth, not fear." Olivia nodded weakly, knowing she couldn't hide behind their arrangement much longer. Outside, Harper laughed with Lily in the snow, unaware of the storm swirling inside Olivia's chest. Olivia didn't know how long she and Harper stood in the snow after Ruby walked away. The world felt suspended, quiet except for the distant hum of holiday lights and the faint crunch of ice beneath their boots. Harper's confession still echoed in the cold air between them. Olivia wanted to speak, but her thoughts tangled faster than she could untangle them. The hurt, the memories, the longing, everything she had tried to bury was suddenly alive again. Harper waited patiently, her breath visible in soft white clouds. When Olivia finally found her voice, it came out small. "Why didn't you say anything before?" Harper stepped closer, not enough to crowd her, but enough for the sincerity in her eyes to be unmistakable. "Because you left," she whispered. "Because I thought I'd only make it harder for you if I tried to fight for something you'd already walked away from." Olivia felt the words hit deep. She had left expecting Harper to chase her. Harper had stayed silent, believing chasing would hurt more. Olivia looked away, blinking against the sting in her eyes. "I didn't leave because I stopped loving you," she admitted quietly. The confession drifted into the night, delicate and dangerous. Harper's breath hitched. "Then why?" she asked. Olivia hesitated, the truth heavy inside her chest. "Because I was scared. Scared it wasn't enough. Scared I wasn't enough." Harper's expression softened with aching tenderness. She reached out slowly, giving Olivia plenty of time to pull away. Olivia didn't. Harper's gloved fingers brushed Olivia's cheek with a warmth that cut through the winter air. "You were always enough," Harper said. "We just didn't know how to say the right things back then." Olivia swallowed hard, her heart pulling in 100 directions. The snow continued falling softly around them, as if the universe were urging them to rewrite everything they had broken. For the first time in years, Olivia let herself imagine what it would be like if she chose differently this time. But then the front door opened, spilling warm light across the snow. Ruby stepped onto the porch, her expression unreadable, calm, composed, but undeniably aware of what she had interrupted. "Dinner's ready," she said gently. Olivia felt her stomach twist. The moment shattered, replaced by the weight of the present, of promises, of the lie Ruby was still holding up for her. Harper stepped back immediately, masking her emotions with practiced restraint. Olivia nodded numbly and followed Ruby toward the porch. Inside, the house buzzed with chatter and holiday music, but Olivia felt as though she were walking through water. Ruby stayed close, not as the fake girlfriend now, but as someone who understood exactly what Olivia was feeling. When no one was watching, Ruby leaned in and whispered, "You don't owe me anything." Olivia froze. Ruby's eyes were soft, honest, free of judgment. "Whatever happens," she added, "just make sure it's because you want it, not because you're scared." Olivia felt her heart twist painfully. Harper took her seat across the table, avoiding Olivia's gaze but not successfully hiding the emotion that lingered in her eyes. The dinner began, full of laughter and stories, but Olivia barely tasted the food. She kept replaying Harper's words, Ruby's kindness, her own confusion. For the first time since coming home, she couldn't cling to the safety of her plan. She was standing on the edge of something much bigger, something real, and she didn't know what step came next. Christmas morning arrived quietly, with soft snow drifting outside the windows as the house slowly woke. Olivia stepped into the living room, where the tree glowed softly in the early light. Harper stood near it, turning an ornament over in her hands as if debating whether to stay or slip away unnoticed. When she looked up and saw Olivia, something in her expression softened instantly. There were no pretenses left between them now, no lies, no roles, no barriers. Olivia approached slowly, her heartbeat steady and certain for the first time in days. "I didn't want to interrupt family time," Harper murmured, offering a small smile. Olivia shook her head, stepping closer until only a breath separated them. "You're part of this family," she said softly, surprising herself with the truth of it. Harper blinked, emotion flickering across her face. They stood in a fragile, tender silence before Harper whispered, "Are you sure?" Olivia nodded, not out of impulse but clarity. She finally understood that leaving hadn't healed anything. It had only delayed the conversation she needed most. Harper hesitated, then reached for Olivia's hand with slow, cautious certainty. Their fingers intertwined, so naturally it felt like muscle memory. "I never stopped caring," Harper admitted, voice trembling. "I just didn't know if I still had a place in your life." Olivia exhaled shakily, thumb brushing Harper's knuckles. "I didn't know either," she confessed. "But you showed up and I couldn't ignore what that meant." Harper's eyes warmed, the weight of 2 years dissolving into something hopeful. Just then, Ruby entered quietly, holding 2 mugs of coffee. She paused at the sight of their joined hands, then offered a genuine, gentle smile. "Looks like I won't be needed for this scene," she teased softly. Olivia met her gaze with gratitude, knowing Ruby understood more than any hired actress should have. Ruby set the mugs down, wrapping Olivia in a brief, supportive hug. "Go fix your story," Ruby whispered. "The real one." There was no bitterness, only warmth and encouragement. Diane and Lily wandered in moments later, stumbling upon the quiet moment of reconciliation. Diane clasped her hands together, joy lighting her entire face as she whispered, "Finally." Lily elbowed her playfully, but her grin was just as wide. Harper flushed, Olivia laughed, and Ruby gave a theatrical bow as if taking credit for the entire situation. The room filled with soft laughter, light, relieved, genuine. No one asked for explanations. No one demanded timelines. It was simply accepted, as though this reunion had always been inevitable. The family opened presents together, passing ribbons and bows back and forth as snow piled gently outside. Ruby received a scarf Diane insisted she needed for future acting gigs, while Harper settled comfortably beside Olivia on the couch, their shoulders brushing with easy familiarity. The tension that had weighed on the house for days evaporated, replaced with a quiet understanding that something broken had finally begun to mend. Olivia leaned into Harper slightly, and Harper rested her head against hers. Small gestures, but honest ones. Later, as the sun dipped behind the snowy rooftops, Olivia and Harper stepped outside onto the porch. The cold air wrapped around them, but Olivia felt warm, anchored by Harper's presence. "We'll take it slow," Harper said softly. "Talk this time. Really talk." Olivia nodded, feeling hope rise gently in her chest. Behind them, Ruby waved from the doorway, promising to visit as a friend. Olivia squeezed Harper's hand, smiling as new possibilities settled into place. This Christmas hadn't gone according to plan, but maybe that was exactly what she needed.